And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Wheelie Podcast. This week, sponsored by VMAX Electric Scooters. If you're looking for a high quality electric scooter with superior performance, you're going to want to check out their new VX5, VX2 Pro, and VX4. We're going to have more on them later on in the podcast. For now, I'm your host, Mike Atoll. I'm joined again by Electrek Seth Weintraub. How's it going, Seth?
I'm good.
Awesome. And we have a pile of new electric bike and scooter and tiny Cybertruck and other interesting news in the non car electric vehicle space. All sorts of things from new e-bike models from Ride1Up. We're going to talk about a interesting moped style e-bike review we did from Electric Bike Company. Something interesting happened when Paris banned their electric scooters. We got a new word on what the latest is there. There's a new folding electric scooter that is as small as a lunchbox, believe it or not. We're going to talk about the new LIVAQ EQUAD, the most capable electric ATV ever, though there's not a lot of competition there yet. That tiny Cybertruck we talked about is coming up, and there's more where that came from. So let's see, where are we going to start this week, Seth?
All right, Ride1Up CF Racer1 unveiled as a high-speed gravel road bike without the high price.
Yeah, this one I think is going to be pretty interesting to use, Seth. The only thing it doesn't have that you'd probably want is a Broza mid-drive motor. But this is Ride One Up's attempt to make a both a road bike and a gravel bike. They have two versions with a carbon fiber frame and with components that are pretty nice. I mean, these are not like top shelf. This isn't like an S-Works specialized bike, but it's going to compete with bike shop style road bikes. It's got a very nice carbon fiber frame plus carbon seat post, carbon fork, stem, handlebars. Like it's all anything that can be carbon is carbon here, with the exception of no carbon fiber belt. It is a 11 speed. But otherwise, it's basically a drop bar road bike, and then the gravel bike version comes with wider gravel tires and a slightly different angle on the handlebars. But otherwise, they're very similar. The price is I believe 2,200 is the launch price, and the MSRP is 2,300, which is higher than most of Ride One Up's bikes. But we're talking about a 27-pound carbon fiber electric bike here. This thing is going to stack up pretty well against those bike shop bikes. The other thing is that to make this more affordable, one of the things that Ride One Up cut down on wasn't the components, but rather the motor style. So this one does have a hub motor, which for the purist is going to be, a downside. It is nice to have a mid-drive motor with a torque sensor, both for the balance of the weight and because it gives you that like most dedicated purist cycle experience. But even with the hub motor here, I mean, all of these road style e-bikes are very low power, so once you're moving along at constant speed, you really can't tell too much of a difference between a hub motor and a mid-drive motor. It's those times when you're, climbing up a steep hill or, doing the chicanes and you've got, some really tight cutbacks and you feel the balance of the bike more. Those are the instances where you notice more of a difference. But for probably 90% of the riding, when you're just going straight down the road, it's going to feel pretty similar, a hub motor and a mid-drive compared to $4,500 $6,000 electric road bikes and gravel bikes. Obviously this is going to be a significant savings. The question that I have is who exactly is this aimed at? Are they going to try and carve off some of those like specialized and Cannondale customers, or are they trying to get those people that wouldn't have even considered one of those bikes that always said, oh, I'd love to have one of those, like Sunday morning 70-mile road bikes, but it's just not in the budget for me? Are they going after those folks to get them into this sort of electric road biking, electric gravel biking market? What do you think about the bike, Seth?
Well, I would say first off that I'm probably in that group because I have a gravel acoustic bike that I don't ride as much as I probably would if it was electrified. Um, but at the same time, I don't see myself spending, the $5,000 it would cost to get like a giant or a specialized. Um, those are great bikes, but I just don't think I would get enough utility out of it, at least until I retire. Um, it's a $5,000 bike is something you would have to use quite a bit. My questions on this. So, I'm obviously in the the group that would buy this is like, what kind of like the motor. I know what a Broza motor feels like. I would love Ride One Up to, you know, maybe have an upgraded version of this that has a Broza motor because they do have bikes with Broza motors. And in fact, like when a lot of my friends recommend or ask for recommendations on a bike that costs, is cost effective but has the Broza uh, system, I often recommend Ride One Up. So, um, my hope would be that they get some success with this and then they offer an upgrade. But, my question on this one is what is that 37 volt, 7 amp hour battery with a 252 uh, watt hours of capacity? What is that going to be like? Is that going to be, is that going to help a lot? Is that going to help a little bit? This is kind of an area where I don't think I have a lot of expertise. I don't have a lot of experience um, on, with the road bikes and the gravel bikes because you really don't want like a heavy, big motor or a heavy, big battery. Um, the weight on this is really light, like kind of surprisingly light. I think it's lighter than even the bike shop bike, bike shop electric bikes.
Yeah, Specialized is I think 31 pounds. They're like base level Turbo Creo 2, I think is the model.
Yeah, so I mean, at 27 pounds, like there are some actual like acoustic bikes that weigh that much. So, you know, that's super impressive. But like, what is the flip side of that? Is it, power? Is it, does it get 20 miles and you're done, or what's the real story there? So we're gonna have to, take a look at this and see what other people are saying as well. Um, do we have a review scheduled or?
They're not in the country yet.
Uh-huh.
They tell me they have one with my name on it, but
Okay.
hopefully they're going to be here next month. I should be heading to the US in a few days, so if they get in early, hopefully I can get one in early. But otherwise, hopefully I'll be testing it in January if they
Okay.
stick to their import schedule.
Yeah, I mean that's a great bike for Florida. You got the flat. Uh, it's usually pretty flat there, so you don't need the like super heavy duty motors and batteries. I think that's pretty good situation for you there. If there
Yeah,
is an extra one, or if there is a Broza version coming down the pike, I'll just raise my hand now. Uh,
definitely. We'll see what we can do for you.
all right.
I think the Brozo is going to be a tough sell because I know that when I was talking to them about the Prodigy V2 that they have with the Brozo, that it costs a good bit more to get those German motors in. So here, I
Yeah.
think to reach this price, which the Prodigy is like another 100 or 200 over this, they probably had to choose either carbon or German motor, but not both.
Right. Well, we can hope
Maybe.
for the future.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Uh, uh-oh, here comes the chauvinistic one. Just kidding. Everything my wife learned from her first 100 miles e-biking to work.
Yeah, this one was fun because I actually got to interview my wife for work. She started e-biking daily this year when she started a new job as a elementary school principal. We to sort of set the stage here. We live in a city. We're a couple miles from her school, so it's kind of like the ideal bike commute urban area situation. We have pretty good bike lanes. So I think about 90% of her commute is bike lane, and then she's got a short section where she either has to hop on the sidewalk or ride on the road. But it's generally a very like positive area to do a bike commute. And so when she started a new job, she said, "I think I'd like to start bike commuting. It's certainly faster than driving a car in traffic." And before that, she was taking the bus, which on the way there, the bus trip would be about 7 or 8 minutes because it's at like 7 in the morning. But the way home, the bus is 45 minutes, which is almost slower than walking, I think, for that distance because the traffic is just so bad. So instead, she's got a 10-minute each direction e-bike commute now that saves her a lot of time. And so I had the chance to talk to someone who is now like a first time daily e-bike rider, which is interesting perspective for me because like I'm so deep into e-biking for so many years now that sometimes you lose the perspective of someone who's new to the idea of e-bike. And so it was very interesting to see all the things that she learned from the last few months of riding her e-bike every day. And a lot of it was positive, though it's not all positive. There are, some interesting things to see. So just to hit a few of the highlights here, definitely the time saving was a huge thing for her. She said that like, she just can't even imagine going back to sitting on the bus now and just like, watching the miles slowly creep by, but also being stuck on someone else's schedule that you have to get there and wait for the bus, or you get there right after it came. And, with the e-bike, she leaves when she wants, she comes home when she wants, kind of thing. Um, but also she was talking about how it starts her day differently. Like it's just sort of a fun way to have like a mini adventure every morning. And she said, she starts with a smile, and sometimes she'll just be like singing, riding her bike down the bike lane on the way to work in the morning. It just adds that like positive energy to the day. It wasn't all positive though. There were definitely some interesting things that she added. For one, something I didn't really think about, but as a woman, they wear different clothes, often like more flowing clothes. I feel like there's a word there somewhere. And so like, her longer like jackets, or like, if she wears like her kimonos or whatever, like, long scarf, that kind of thing. She has to be very careful about that stuff getting caught in a bike. And she has to kind of dress thinking like, I'm going to be riding a bike today, which is something I don't normally think about as a man. So that was, another interesting way to look at it. Another thing is that her bike is technically fully street legal here. We have European style e-bike laws. So it's 25 kilometers an hour, 250 watts, no throttle. And I would say probably half the e-bikes here still have throttles. Like either they came with them, or people added them, after they got the bike. And so whenever someone just like blows by her and she's pedaling, it's a little bit demoralizing. So she wants me to add a throttle for her, just so when she's
Oh,
tired, she has the option. Yeah, I'm going back and forth on
my kids are the same way. They
yeah.
like they hate the bikes without throttles, and they're just like, I can't do anything with this. I need it. And they'll pedal sometimes, but like when there's a throttle, like the pedaling is just it's kind of just make believe sometimes.
Yeah, and probably they started with e-bikes that had a throttle, right? Or did they
Right.
start on a yeah, so the good thing about her is that this is basically her first like everyday e-bike. And so she started on pedal
Which model
assist.
is that, by the way?
This is the Excite XS. Excite
Okay.
is like the sister company of Revolt,
Oh, okay.
Barcelona-based e-bike company. So this is like their futuristic line, and then Revolt is like their kind of steampunky retro line.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
It's a
she
good
really
looking
likes
bike.
this one. Yeah, that's why she chose it. Actually, she saw it in our Eurobike video where I was on the trainer. This is the one
Hmm.
where you can actually put it on a trainer and charge the battery by riding it
Right.
stationary. So she saw that and she was like, "That's the bike I want." And I think it looks good as well.
Is that a
I
stock
agree.
seat?
That is not. So it came with a beautiful, like Catalonian leather looking seat, which was terribly uncomfortable. And so within like a day, she was like, I need a new seat, which is another
Function, form.
interesting. Yeah. Like, I'm used to just adapting. Like, whatever
Yeah.
the bike is, however it's shaped, whatever size it is, I adapt to it. But not everyone is that, carefree. And so that was another interesting perspective that, the bike's got to fit the rider.
Hmm.
And so it's funny because I was talking to Matt, the CEO of Excite, and we were talking about that seat actually. And I mentioned it, and he was like, "Yeah, what a mistake about that seat. It looks beautiful, but it is not comfortable." So that they know that it's not the best seat to sit on.
Yeah, maybe they should have a when your bike's sitting in your living room, that the leather seat, and then the seat like that you have here for the actual riding.
Yeah, if anything, I should just put the seat on the wall in the living room because it looks beautiful by itself.
Yeah. And does she ever use the using it as a workout bike to charge the battery function?
We haven't gotten a trainer yet to put it up on.
Okay.
I've been meaning to get one. It has adapters, so you can use pretty much any like bike trainer, but Excite does have their own that fits it perfectly. And so I've been meaning to get that for her because she actually wants to do that. And I think that would be awesome to know that like each day you're commuting on energy that you generated would just be like.
Yeah.
So it's in the cards for us.
Yeah, speaking of that feel good feeling, and you mentioned a little bit like, she's singing on the way to work. Um, you know, I think one of the best things is that you get your heart rate up. You're not sweating necessarily, but you're getting all your joints going, your muscles going. I mean, this will be something you'll notice more when you're older, but as an old person, getting that like first thing in the morning really like helps out for the rest of the day. Like I like honestly, I've become addicted to mostly Peloton bike, but biking in the morning. If I don't bike in the morning, I actually will have a really bad day 100% of the time. Just
Wow.
from like everything, from every
Withdrawals.
perspective. Yeah, I don't know if it's withdrawal. It's just if I don't get like my heart going and my muscles stretched and joints going, then I just wind up in a bad place. So I mean, it's I don't I don't know if it's me specifically, but I feel like it's almost like it's like a depression like I get into if I don't have that blood flowing and whatever. Like I get like a serotonin
Yeah.
boost from it. So um
It
that's
sounds
what I get.
like yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds like it's two-sided, like the physical and the mental.
yeah, and I think the physical has a big mental component. So and it doesn't have to be bike riding. I can obviously do other forms of exercise. I just choose to do bike riding, whether it's stationary or whatever. So I know I can't be the only one like that, but it's just one of those things, intangibles that you don't really think about too much when you're doing the equation of should I ride or should I not. And the last thing is, I know it doesn't rain a lot there, but has she taken it in the rain?
It's only rained a couple days since the start of the school year, and one day she rode a bit in the rain, and she learned the like shopping bag over the seat trick.
Hmm.
But the other day she took the bus, which I think was like mentally demoralizing
Yeah,
for her to be back on the bus. But she's a little more of a fair weather rider, I would say. Like on the heavy downpour day, like she just didn't even look at the bike, kind of thing. Which I understand. Like
I
not
understand
everyone
too.
wants to be out in the rain. What she did say though is as it started getting cooler, she liked the fact that she could lower the pedal assist level and she just like warmed herself up that way, which
That's
is
really
kind of an
interesting.
interesting benefit.
Yeah. And I see the fenders on there. Like I know, if you're thinking about biking in the rain, the fenders are the absolute most important thing. Otherwise, you just wind up like soaking wet.
Yeah, she mentioned when I was interviewing her that she learned that when she goes through puddles, she has to lift her feet up. There are fenders, but when you go through a deep puddle, you still get that
Yeah,
like, wake that you spray all around. And so little things like that that like we take for granted, but now she's learning like you go through a fist deep puddle, you lift your feet up so you don't get wet shoes.
yeah. So last thing is, I'm living up here in Vermont for the winter because my son's going to school up here, and we have a husky that kind of goes, ape if she doesn't get run. So I got that hay bike that we both reviewed, and I've been using it in the snow. I dropped some air pressure, and I've been riding the puppy around for well, she's 6 years old now, but um, so that's my daily commute up here in the snow. So
That's awesome.
can be done anywhere.
If there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Electric bike company Model J review. A literally one of a kind moped, e-moped.
Yeah, a lot of people think their bike's like kind of one of a kind. This one, there's literally no other bike like this because I got to use Electric Bike Company's customizer to basically design it from the ground up. And so there's sort of two things here. One, there's the Model J itself, which for all intents and purposes is like a Super 73. I don't know if I'd call it a clone, but like inspired by a Super 73 mini bike, box frame style bike. 28 miles an hour. I think it's 750-watt continuous, but like a little over 1,000-watt peak. Very nicely designed bike, but the real beauty here is the customizer, and that's where you really just choose everything you want going into the bike. It started with I put a suspension fork on it. I got to choose all the colors, not just like the frame color, but the frame, the fork, the rim color, the tire color, the chain guard color, like everything. The handlebars could be black or silver. Every piece on here, the grips can be customized. And then there's all the different technology. You can choose whether or not you want a torque sensor. You can choose whether or not you want a single speed or a 7 speed. You can add alarms. Like I feel like I'm leaving off half the things here, but there's so much that you can go in and choose to customize. Like just in the paint, I think they have like 20 or 30 colors there, but they can literally make any color. Like if you have a I don't know like your favorite shirt or something and you want to match that color, you can like scan it, get that color, and they'll paint your bike that color. It's just crazy. And the way they can do that is they not only build their own bikes in Newport Beach there, but they have their own massive paint facility. This is actually a smaller paint facility they had a couple years ago that I visited. If you're watching the video here with us, and so I got to try my hand at painting a Tweety Bird yellow frame there. But now they've moved into an even bigger paint shop, and so it just blows my mind how much customization there is here. It's like there's nothing else like this anywhere in the e-bike industry, that you can go in and just design your own specific bike however you want. And this is just their Model J. That's their Super 73 style moped, but they've got like a half dozen different styles of bikes, from cruisers to folders, adventure bikes, etc. And so oh yeah, I forgot about the handlebars. Like 4 different styles of handlebars. Like
Yes,
how
watching
crazy
it.
is that?
Yeah.
Like there's just so much going on. Like I'm not even doing justice how many things you can choose. You can put 1, 2, or 3 batteries on it. Like it's not even like you have to go to Amazon and like hack on a battery with a hose clamp. Like you
Yeah,
just choose how
it
many
really does.
batteries.
It does seem like you're building your own bike here. Like really feels like you're building a one of a kind bike.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because I designed this, and then like once I got the bike, I was like, why did I choose that brown color for the rack? Like it's the one thing that doesn't look like it goes. I made a joke here that like they should have an error message that pops up and is like, "Are you sure you want your rack to be the color of the poop emoji?" But I mean, that's the cool thing though, is that like just literally anything you want to do. Oh, you can choose between half twist and thumb throttle. Like when else do you get that choice? It's such a divisive thing. It's like a tiny part of an e-bike, but like some people won't buy an e-bike because it has a twist or it doesn't have a twist throttle. So just the fact that you can choose every one of these things blows my mind. And all of that is on top of the fact that it's just a really nice bike. They use all corrosion resistant hardware because they come from beach cruiser roots. So they know what it's like to have a bike you take to the beach every day. They have a 5-year battery warranty and a 10-year motor and frame warranty. Like they're just doing everything right here. 4 piston brakes. Man, I can go on and on. It's crazy. And the bike starts at $12.99. How insane is that?
Yeah, you kind of wonder how they do that. So
Yeah, I mean, so I'll say that by the time I got done designing this, it was I think like $2,100. So
uh,
if you add a lot of different things and you
right.
choose different parts to have different custom paint, it does add up. And so they definitely make more profit on the customized bikes. But still, like like if you wanted to do like Orange County Chopper's e-bike version or something and go somewhere and have them build you a custom bike, you'd think it would cost more than $2,100. So it's still pretty reasonable considering you're getting like a 100% everything you want in an e-bike, and that's with 2 batteries too. Like don't forget that's it's either 48 volt, 14 amp hours, so it's like 1,300 hours of battery right there.
And how long does it take for a custom bike to, from the time you pay to the time something's at your door?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of the bummer. It does take between 2 to 4 weeks, so it's not
That's not
like
that's not unreasonable. I mean, they're spray painting a bike.
oh yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable, but I'm also spoiled by all these companies that you place an order and 2 days later you get a tracking number for your bike and
Yeah.
it's there within a week. So you do have to wait a bit longer. But remember, there are like California dudes and California women just like bolting these things together in Newport Beach. So like this is being hand built for you from the time you click buy. It's not like something that was assembled a year ago and is sat in a box in a shipping container and then it's in a warehouse in Arizona somewhere. So like there's a lot of American labor that goes into producing these too. When you think about what happens from the time that you design it to the time it gets to you. So there's a lot of people that touch it, and there's a lot of people that care as well, which I just think is a pretty neat thing that like it's as local as you can get. There are always people that are like, oh, well, the battery isn't, made in the US and the brakes are made in Taiwan. Like, all right, so like it has foreign parts in it, but they
So
start with
wait,
a bare
this
frame.
this Newport Beach company hasn't like reinvented the whole like value chain of the supply chain of bike manufacturing. They
Yeah,
actually, yeah, I
they're
I
um they're not vulcanizing their own rubber in the
right,
in the
right,
factory there. Yeah,
yeah.
well, it's as American as you can get, I think, and
Yeah.
I just never understand how people like want to pick that bone, but whatever. I just think it's so cool to support a local company that not only makes a good product, but also makes it so that you can create like literally anything you want. Just with the paint colors, there have to be like 100,000 different options. Oh, this is the one thing that I like really rubbed me the wrong way is that because they use a center kickstand like that, you can get that pedal
Uh,
lock when you go
I hate
backwards,
that. Yeah.
right? Like,
Since I
and
was a kid.
there's mounts there for a rear kickstand. Like this one, I just it did not compute in my mind, but I guess
Well, so
nothing
they
can be
didn't
perfect.
offer a rear kickstand?
No, it wasn't. That's the one thing on the customizer you can't get is a rear
I'm sure
kickstand.
that's
But
coming. It's got to be coming.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then of course the helmet here as well. In hindsight, I really should have picked the same color as my bike. I don't know why I went with a different blue, but I think it looks pretty cool.
That's a nice helmet, yeah.
Yeah, and LED lights. Like, I mean, I sound like I'm doing a commercial for them, but like I'm just so blown away by the experience here that the few things I could complain about, like it gets pedal lock from the kickstand if you roll it backwards. Oh, there's one other thing that I wasn't a huge fan of. They have the throttle response pretty slow in terms of ramping up. So, it's not like those Himaway big dogs where it's like you push the throttle and you start throwing gravel behind you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So this one, within like a second or a second and a half, the motor kind of like ramps up. And so that might be part of how they can offer a 5 year motor warranty. That it's not like destroying itself by just dropping 750 watts at once. It kind of like ramps it up over a second, which, if you're like us and you enjoy that power is kind of a bummer, but I get that it's probably better for a wide audience.
Yep. Totally makes sense. And if you order like a stock one, the lowest price one, does that come a little bit quicker?
Yeah, I think it's definitely less than 2 weeks. I don't remember what the exact shipping time is, but they have them, that they can build up basically right away without having to do any of the other customization stuff, and that
Yeah.
definitely comes sooner. It's still not as quick as just like ordering a rad kind of thing because it's
And do they have
not
like a
already in a
factory
box.
store or anything? Can you just go to the factory and pick one out or
Yeah, 100%. I think they have like 3 or 4 actually,
okay.
spread around Newport. Last time I was there, I think they literally had like 7 buildings. Some of them were just bike buildings. One was a paint shop, and a few were factory stores spread around Newport Beach. But they also have a pretty good dealer network, so they're in, a number of bike shops around the country as well.
That's great. All right. Let's do one more and we'll do our read after that. Um, After Paris banned electric scooters, something surprising happened in the city.
Yeah, this actually did surprise me because I wasn't sure what was going to happen last year when Paris voted to ban shared electric scooters. If you followed that news, there was a referendum in the city. I guess a lot of Parisians were upset that there were these shared scooters sort of clogging up the streets, the limes and the birds and that sort of thing. So they banned shared scooters, and we all kind of wondered, all right, what happens? This is the first big European capital to do this. Well, as it turns out, a new study found that the dockless bike share, not the Believe or whatever it is, that's like the Paris city docked bikes, but the dockless ones went over 100% increase in ridership. So they more than doubled their ridership. And so basically everyone said like, all right, I'm still going to do this like shared micromobility thing. I don't want to be stuck to docks, but I'm gonna take the bikes now. And the bikes, when I think the last time I was in Paris, I don't know if there were any dockless bikes. Maybe there was one company so far,
What
but
was that
now
red?
they've
The red ones, the Uber.
Jump.
Yeah, Jump had some bikes there, I think.
Nice. Yeah. So now there's Dot. I think Tier might have their bikes there. I'm not sure. There's a bunch of them now. And I mean, they've just gone like gangbusters. Everyone has been like, all right, now Parisians ride dockless e-bikes around. So the numbers have more than doubled there. The total number of shared rides is still a little bit lower than a year ago, unfortunately, because when you like gut one form of micromobility, I guess it takes more than a year to recover. But these companies are basically just like renting out dockless e-bikes as quickly as they can, which I think is kind of a double-edged sword because on the one hand, I'm personally a bigger fan of bikes. I think they're more stable, and so I like
Same.
this form of micromobility. But on the other hand, the whole reason that Paris got upset with these scooters was because you had them blocking sidewalks, knocked over that sort of thing. And now these bikes are, 2 to 3 times the weight, the size of a shared scooter. So are we just going to see the same thing happening again a year from now? Is there going to be a new referendum and they're going to say, yeah, bikes too? Like, we're tired of fishing those out of the river, and we don't want those in our city either. Like, what's going to happen to the bikes now? So I don't know if this is positive news or if it's just like highlights the issue that Paris had with dockless micromobility in general.
So I actually was in Paris 2 months ago. I was in between Barcelona and Berlin for car reviews, and I spent the weekend there. And so those jump bikes that we rode last time, they got that whole thing got bought out by Lime. So now you have these red Lime bikes, which is like Lime's colors are green, but there's tons of bikes everywhere. It's so easy to ride in Paris because it's one of those like critical mass things where because there's so many bikers now that everybody has to watch out for them. The cars are always on high alert, and you're they've built a lot of infrastructure. The new mayor of Paris has been super bike friendly, um, and I think the fact that there's so many people on bikes, these bigger, more street legal vehicles, I think that's I think it's caused like the car drivers to just say, look, we're equal citizens. We're going to ride behind you. We're not going to try to go around you and push you onto the sidewalk and all this other stuff. So I think Paris has become a very bike friendly city. You know, and the scooter thing, I totally understand. And I think you remember like when we were trying to go over the cobblestones on those scooters without the really great suspension. It was kind of rattling our brains a little bit. So in a lot of cases, the bike, the bigger bike wheels are a benefit as well. So I think
Yeah, I
overall
think
it's a good thing, and I think
yeah, that's great. Maybe the bikes can do what the or the dockless scooters couldn't do.
yeah, exactly. And uh, by and large, there's places to park those things that the Limes of the world are telling people where they should park them, and what's the best um I don't want to say manners, but like like let's try to have a society here, kind of thing.
Yeah, everyone be a good citizen and treat others the way you would want to see bikes ridden around you.
Exactly. So I think it's really happening in Paris, and that's good because they want to be car free in a few years. So
That's
that's
awesome.
yeah.
Well, I'll have to check that out on my next trip to Paris. I don't know when it's coming, but maybe now I need to make a field trip.
Yeah, the Mondial show is one of these times. Let's do our ad read real quick before we move on. Um, today today's episode is sponsored by VMAX Mobility Inc., one of Europe's leading e-scooter brands. The brand was founded in 2015 and is headquartered in Switzerland. After 8 years of growth in Europe, VMAX e-scooters are now available in North America. VMAX UL certified e-scooters offer exceptional performance and reliability with a motor, battery, and controller and frame that are all built to last for years. The brand's high quality components are all made in VMAX's ISO certified facility for maximum control over safety and design. On the company's latest models, you'll find integrated turn signals, ultra bright front lights, responsive brake lights, tubeless tires with superior tire tread, and an anti slip deck and built in suspension. You'll also find a powerful motor, high torque, instant responsiveness, advanced electronics, and regenerative braking for unmatched performance. VMAX offers an industry-leading 24-month warranty, and with nationwide repair shops and local U.S. warehouse for parts, servicing is easy. Check out the latest VX5, VX2 Pro, VX4 models, and stay tuned for the exciting new VX3. If you're a speed enthusiast, don't miss the company's R40 and R55 high-speed race scooters. Visit vmax-scooters.us and use promo code VMAXElectrek for exclusive offers for a limited time. Thanks again to VMAX for sponsoring.
Nice. Well, if you just got back from Paris and you need a scooter fix, head over to VMAX.
Yep. And if you're racing scooters, good luck to you. It's a scary business, but it's growing quite a bit. All right, so let's move on. This lunchbox size folding electric scooter is even funkier than Honda's Motocompacto.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun talking about the Honda Motocompacto the last few weeks. They're like briefcase shaped and sized electric scooter, but there's this new, even smaller, even if I may say so, weirder electric scooter that may be coming, depending how far along they get with production. It's called the Arma, and if the Motocompacto is briefcase size, this one is better described as like lunchbox sized, like the old like Elvis tin lunchbox kind of thing. If you're watching here with us, you can see it next to a coffee cup, and like it's not that much bigger than the coffee cup, which is crazy because this is a fold out, rideable, stand up electric scooter. It only weighs 10 pounds, which is kind of crazy. It goes almost 15 miles an hour. I think it's like 14 miles an hour, and it has a range of just over 9 miles. So if we use the same sort of fudge factor with most micromobility vehicles, where you figure you get like maybe 75% of that, then maybe you really get more like 7 miles instead of the 10 or so. But even so, like, I mean, this is very much meant to be a last mile or last 2 mile type of vehicle. It's something that you could carry with you, like literally the way you'd carry a lunchbox. And if you need to go 2 miles to the train station, you pop it out and you can ride like that. If you're in an area that doesn't have shared micromobility, then this could be a good solution. You know, it turns a 40-minute walk into a 12-minute scoot kind of thing. The question is whether something like this is actually going to become a real product. Now, they do have prototypes, but this company is not yet in production. They say that's their next step. So, you know, it looks good. If you're watching here with us, we can see at least one of these being ridden around Tokyo. So it appears to work, but I'm not sure if it's commercializable or how well it would stand up to the rigors of riding this thing every day. Those wheels don't look particularly big, which I guess if it folds up into the size of a lunchbox, one of the things that has to go are big wheels. So these are like original Razor scooter, like 3.5 inch wheels, it looks like. I don't know if I'd trust it for me. I don't know. What about you, Seth? Would you ride this thing?
I mean, I would definitely ride it around the floor at CES, but I don't know if I'd take this like on the local streets.
We hit a New
Um,
York pothole.
yeah, a New York pothole would be the end. Although you're not going that fast. I mean, I guess this thing is like, well, how much better than walking is it the experience going to be? Like, it doesn't look like it goes super fast. But this is the form factor is amazing. Like it's literally a lunchbox, and the weight is under 10 pounds, uh, which it's a lunchbox is often a lot less than 10 pounds, so it's a little bit heavier than a lunchbox, but you could certainly take this with you to work. Um, I see some bend uh, in that frame. I wonder how like flimsy and rickety that would feel, and still keep the weight. Uh, like I wonder how rigid they can actually make this thing, and is the experience going to be that much better than walking? Especially
Yeah.
having to carry around a ten pound object as well.
Yeah, well,
So
what's interesting is you can see that you stand very close to those rear wheels, so it's like they're trying to keep the weight away from the middle, where you'd be like stressing the middle of the bridge.
right, you're standing right over that rear wheel, and that front wheel is kind of just like for balance, front and back balance. Um, so yeah, I mean, I love the idea. I love the like that they're going there, but I just in practice, does this work as well as it seems? What would be cool though, like in addition to this, is like put a couple USB-C battery things on there, and you've got a charger for your phones as well. That extra battery backup. I mean, that's a huge, relatively huge battery compared to what people carry around batteries anyway. So like maybe it makes it more utilitarian. I don't know.
Yeah, at a certain point, it becomes a portable battery you can ride as opposed to a
Right.
scooter that charges your phone.
Right. And maybe you can like generate electricity by, kick scooting it or something. I don't know.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
version 3, I think. We'll have to
Yeah,
give them a little
version.
time.
Yeah. No, I love the idea. I hope they get, to production. All right, moving forward, we have the LIVAQ EQUAD unveiled as the most capable electric ATV ever.
Yeah, and as I kind of teased at the beginning, it's awesome to see this, but there just aren't very many electric quad bikes out there. So it might be the most capable electric ATV ever, but there's not a lot of competition. As it stands, it's pretty interesting though. This is a very heavy two-wheel drive ATV, so it's got a couple things going against it right from the bat. But this is supposed to be a Michigan-produced U.S. Electric ATV. So if they can actually bring this thing to production, it should be pretty interesting. And they've got pretty good specs here too. I don't know if I would ever want to take this thing up to 67 miles an hour, but that's how fast it apparently goes. Maybe if you're on like a runway, but I don't know how many times I've been off-roading at 60 plus miles an hour on an ATV. Like that just seems faster than anyone really needs. It's also got a pretty good range. It's 170 miles from a 15.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. So the battery is roughly the size of most flagship electric motorcycles, and it gets actually probably better range than a lot of flagship level electric motorcycles. So I think they're probably quoting that range at a much more reasonable off-road speed. Most of the time you're not doing more than like 20, 25 miles an hour on trails because it's just not, flat enough and safe enough to do high speeds. So that's kind of the beauty of off-road electric vehicles is that when you're going slower, you get really good ranges out of these things. So the nice thing is that this looks like something you could ride pretty much all day. The downside is that it's very expensive. I think it's close to $25,000 or
Ooh.
so. Yeah, that's a tough sell. Now, if you've been like hankering for an electric ATV, then maybe you're ready to pony that up. Like there haven't been that many, and I know a lot of people have been asking me like, when are we going to get electric quads? Like, I'd really love one of these things. So when you're one of the first ones in the market, I guess you can charge just about whatever you want because there's not a lot of competition. But there are some downsides here. I mean, the two-wheel drive is a bit of a bummer. Also, they're hub motors, so while this is a pretty cool piece of kit, you've got that extra weight in the wheels. And now I see the price is 28,000. It's even more than I was thinking. But if you buy, in the first round, then I think you get the discount to get it down to 25 or so. So I'm super excited to see these kinds of things entering the market. LIVAQ, like hats off to you for finally making these things. They're just, there need to be more electric off-road vehicles, especially since when you get out into the woods, when you're out in nature, like the last thing you want is like annoying emission sounds and, hearing your engine. It's so beautiful to be riding like electric motorcycles, electric dirt bikes into a forest and hearing birds and stuff. Like it's so much fun. It's like the best part of my rides when I go off road. So I love seeing that coming to the quad bike market. But I think we just got to bring these prices down. I don't know. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, it says 30% discount for anyone who puts down a non-refundable $1,000 deposit, bringing the price to under 20,000, just under. So like if you do all the things, you can get the price down a little bit. Um, you know, I think Tesla kind of popularized the idea of an electric quad with the Cyber Quad, which hasn't really come to fruition, and it was suspiciously absent from the launch presentation. Although there is a kid's cyber quad that we talked about quite a bit. Not quite as powerful as this one or as expensive, but it's obviously like interesting market. This thing goes like highway speeds, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
it kind of feels like they should have a. I mean, I don't know what quad people do. I'm not a quad person. I remember when I was younger, somebody with a three wheeler like got like paralyzed from the like waist down and like two towns over from me from one of those things flipping on top of them. So like, and of course my parents heard about that, so there was never an option of like going cyber quadding ever, or that's quadding ever. So it's weird how I just said cyber quadding, like that's part
They've
of the
got you.
thing that exactly. So question: would this fit in the back of a Tesla Cybertruck?
Based on the last few images I saw of Cybertruck beds, I'm a little worried about it because
Yeah,
it doesn't seem that spacious back there. I don't
and
know.
this looks quite long. I think it's just over 6 feet that can fit in the quad, cyber quad. And if I lay this guy down, I don't think I don't care how tall he is. I don't think this is going to be 6 feet.
Yeah,
So
maybe with the tailgate down. I don't know.
yeah, you could stick the rear wheels outside of the vehicle, and you'll be all right. So Cybertruck owners, this is your temporary cyber quad. Um, But it'll be interesting to see how these go. If there's more players in the market, obviously we're kind of disappointed at Honda and Kawasaki and all the Japanese motor brands that are kind of late into the electric world. But
Definitely.
maybe it'll happen. All right. Speaking of Cybertruck and Cyberquad, the Tesla Cybertruck for kids, it's real, and you can actually buy one, sort of.
Yeah, I remember seeing like a tweet, I think maybe you shared it, Seth, from the Cybertruck event where there was like a tiny Cybertruck there. But it wasn't like just a joke. They actually make a Cybertruck for kids. And just like the Cyberquad for kids was a very small format Cyberquad that had like a 150-pound weight limit and went, I think, 10 miles an hour. The Cybertruck is basically a similar setup. It's not produced by Radio Flyer. I sent out feelers and heard back that they must have gone with a different supplier for this. So I don't know who makes it, but the specs are pretty similar. I think it goes 10 miles an hour. It's let's see, thousand. I think it's 1,000. No, $1,500. There you go. So not cheap, especially compared to the like Fisher Price Power Wheels or whatever they're called,
Hmm.
that you can get for $300 at Walmart or Amazon, sort of thing. Um, but you're not gonna be able to get that cool design at Walmart or Amazon. So if you're really, really into the Cybertruck and you want your kids to have one before probably you'll have one, then theoretically you could buy one from Tesla. However, it's in a similar situation where even if you want one, you're probably not going to be able to buy one because it's currently sold out. And just like the Cyber Quad for kids, it was like months and months between when they would restock it. And when it got restocked, it would sell out in like, a few hours. So I guess maybe set an alert if you really want one of these to see when the Cybertruck for kids comes back in stock, and maybe you can snag one, or you can take some like cardboard and aluminum foil to a Power Wheels and make your own.
Yeah, the specs are a little interesting. 22-volt battery, 500-watt motor. So you're talking about like a e-bike type of power. 10 mile per hour max speed, as you mentioned. 12 miles of range. So obviously Tesla lies about its range, probably 5 miles. And headlight and taillight, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Good for them. Glad they made it. It's funny and silly, but
You know what
cool
it
to.
needs though? It just
What's
needs
that?
that massive wiper.
It does. Actually, you could probably use a regular wiper. Uh,
It's like a normal 22-inch car wiper,
yeah, you just get one off of your real car.
or the
All
local
right.
side of the road.
Yeah. All right. So we have one last one before we move on. Revamped and recharged is the new Juice Scorpion X2 e-bike, a game changer. It so I did this one. So Juiced introduced the X2 line. Um, Subsequently, after the Scorpion X2, they released the Scrambler X2. Um, and when we saw the announcement, we were kind of like, well, is it more powerful? Is the battery bigger? Is there, what are the real improvements? And I guess we wanted to find out. And so we had one sent, and I did a kind of side by side comparison with the older one, and there's some notable improvements. The bike frame is almost exactly the same. It's very popular, very very good looking frame. The batteries updated from the older one, but that was kind of done mid cycle when they announced that they were going to be what is it? ISO. I can't remember the
Yeah, I
delineation, but
forget the certifications.
yeah, so it's certified battery, which is fantastic. Juice was one of the first to do that, but again, that happened mid-cycle. Also, they have this new packing thing that's different from the old packing thing, but again, that was also a mid-cycle Scorpion X thing. So, what it came down to is like, all right, well, let's check the components, and a lot of the components, notably the motor, was kind of a downgrade. So the older Scorpion X has like these retro blade um, wheels on a just a Bafang kind of generic 1300 watt peak, 750, whatever they say nominal. Um, and they're on street tires, and they put spoked wheels, and knobby tires on, which I think some people will appreciate. I'm not in that camp. I kind of like the the street tires on that, and then a pseudo motor, which I've never seen before, and I actually had to look up, and it's Bafang's new, I would say, value brand, or cheaper brand of motor, which you never like to see, like
It's
a,
the
a bike.
EasyJet of motors.
Yeah, I mean, it worked fine, and I was getting, speeds in the, 22, 23 miles per hour, but it didn't feel any, like there's no improvement. Like you think X2, there's going to be some kind of notable improvement there. So it was actually going a little slower, and I'm not going to blame the motor on that. I think that the knobby tires may have slowed it down a little bit. Um, but like when you have a newer version of something, and it's not quite as fast and not quite they didn't really improve anything notably. The one major thing that I noticed is there's, instead of Logan brakes, or Tektro brakes, which in my mind is an upgrade. I hadn't really heard of Logan before, and Tektro are kind of the industry standard of hydraulic brakes, so that was good. But they eliminated things like the horn. There's no horn on this one. The lights are, it's a kind of a hacky double button push instead of having a dedicated button. So there's a little bit disappointed, I would say, from Juiced overall. Um, I think they're probably trying to make it more efficient, uh, a bike, and hopefully we see prices come down a little bit. But like it, we made Juiced Scorpion kind of our bike of the year one year. Like this is one of our favorite bike lines for sure. So a
Right.
little bit disappointed there. I kind of feel bad for not reaching out to them and saying, hey, am I reading this right? What am I not seeing here? But I was also kind of like, I didn't want to really you know have that conversation. um,
Yeah. So
so
you were showing something in the video there about the different location of the batteries buttons. What is
yeah,
that?
yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So the old batteries just have a button and you push it, and
Like
that's not.
anyone walking by could turn it on, I guess.
Yeah. Um, the the thing is though, you can't take the battery out because there's a key there. And then on Hyper Scorpions and the Scorpion X, there was a key under the seat, so you would actually turn off the controller. It would, basically hard, stop any power from going through the controller.
Right.
So that's not efficient because they have two different, you're basically keying two different things. And on the new one, you basically have one place for the key, and that's where the battery is. But you actually have to turn on and off the battery. You have to pull it out. So what I ended up doing is just leaving the battery on, and there's like a little LED light which will eventually kill the battery. It's obviously a huge battery, so it's going to take months and months. But rather than actually removing the battery, turning it off and on, and then putting the battery back on, um, people are just going to leave their battery on. But as far as Juice is concerned, they don't have to have two separate keying systems for the
Right.
security of the bike. So it's a better system, but you know it's a little bit more hassle for the driver.
And can you feel much of a difference between those knobby tires and the original street tires, just like going straight down the road kind of thing?
It's not obvious, but at the top speed, so the the Scorpion X, I would pretty easily hit 23, 24 miles per hour, and you pretty much are dropping a 1 or 2 miles per hour with the knobbies. And I can't tell if that's because of the knobby tires. Maybe it's the pressure. Maybe it was cold outside. But it just doesn't feel you know, quite as powerful. And that top speed, I just don't get quite as close to that as I'm used to. So, like, all things being considered, if both were offered to me, I would take the Scorpion X. And I imagine the same equation is happening with the Scrambler X2 and X, like,
Yeah.
so.
Interesting. Well, it's fascinating to be able to compare these like this over, a few year gap.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, there's a lot of cost savings happening here. I wonder if Juice is like, all right, there's all these like Amazon e-bikes coming, under $1,000. There's the Electrek. Crap, I said the Amazon.
The
Um,
of the Electric XP.
yeah, the Electrek XP. And I wonder if they're like, all right, well, if we're going to compete with those guys, we have to kind of make our supply chain a little bit leaner. So I do notice like the pseudo motor, the one keyhole. There's a lot of cost savings here. So you know I wonder if the prices are going to come down a little bit. I know Juice sells their BMX. What is that called? The
The Rip
ru-
Racer.
Rip Racer for $1,000. I wonder if that. I mean, and that thing has basically the same drivetrain as this thing. I wonder if they're trying to get these things down near that price as well.
Yeah, and that is an awesome bike, by the way. I mean, like it's smaller, lighter, and so maybe that helps with the power as well. But I mean,
Right.
that's a fun little bike.
Yeah, and so what I said in the post is I kind of recommend like, hey, for a few hundred more bucks, you can get the Hyper Scrambler, which will go over 30 miles per hour if you wanted to, and or you can have it be in legal mode. I wonder if that is the way to go, and hopefully, I think I think Juiced is having issues with the Hyper brand that we often see at Walmart and other places. Um, I think they might have to actually change the name of the bikes. Is that right? Am I thinking?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Several months ago, I think it might have been even over the summer, they announced they were phasing out those bikes. I think they're just selling off all the back stock they had in their warehouse, and they're going to relaunch them under a non-hyper name, I believe.
Yeah. So we'll have to watch out for that. I mean, in the meantime, I would definitely recommend those bikes over the new X2s. So we should head into the comments. So we use StreamYard for our show, and it turns out that Twitter did something weird, and now we're getting all kinds of stuff from Twitter users. But if you have any questions or comments, put them in the either the YouTube or the Facebook now, and we'll be able to answer those. So let's go through those. And we'll remove this here. Micah, why don't you get her something with a bigger wheels, a better ride?
So, yeah, a few people asked me about that, and also that said that she was sitting too low on the bike, and it's the same answer to both of those questions, actually. It's that my wife really likes being able to put both of her feet down on a bike that just like totally changes the stability equation for her and it makes her feel a lot more confident. And so she loves 20-inch wheels, and she rides with her seat much lower than like someone who would you would consider a spandex cyclist would ever allow someone to do. And so many people commented and were like, "Why is she sitting so low?" And like I told her, but she's more comfortable with, having to bend the knee a little more, but being low enough that she can put both her feet down. So at the end of the day, each person decides what's comfortable for them.
Yep. So I actually have that actual exact dilemma because I'm riding around with a husky, so I don't feel as stable, and I want to be able to get my legs out. So I actually ride a lot lower when I'm riding with the dog than I ride, just for pleasure. So I totally get it. I wonder if like, what are those seat riser things called?
Oh, dropper post.
Yeah, dropper post. I wonder if that's like a solution there.
Yeah,
Those aren't
that
cheap.
would be interesting. That would solve the problem. It's funny because those are normally on like several $1,000 mountain bikes. So to
Right. I
put
was gonna
that
say
on
those are
like
quite expensive. All right, Mark Zweig again. We have had a Peloton for at least 3 years, still paying the 40 plus bucks a month, and has probably been used 10 times in total. That's a shame. Pelotons are great. The road is much more fun. That's true. Got to find your Peloton instructors. Um, let's see what else we have here. It's mostly just people on Twitter
joining.
joining. Yeah, join.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think uh, I think that's it for this
Yes.
week then. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining in, and we look forward to having you back to what I believe will be our last podcast of the year in another 2 weeks. So we'll see you then next time, everyone.
And thanks again for VMAX for sponsoring.